Mind Tech Podcast, episode 24, for August 5th, 2013. Microsoft means small and weak. My Tech Podcast, episode 24, coming at you. I'm Gareth in Los Angeles, and I'm joined once again by Joe in London. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Gareth. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. We missed last week, huh?
Yeah. Sorry about that, everyone. That's my fault. I was really busy with work stuff.
It's okay. Stuff happens. What are you going to do? You know, life is just one of those things that keeps rolling on, so you can't always do what you want to do. So we're back. We're here. My Tech Podcast. We got a ton of stories and tons of things to talk about. But before we get into all this techno babble, how's the weather in London?
All right. Just a bit average, really. Reasonably warm, not raining. Can't complain, really.
I can complain.
It's 1,000,000 degrees there.
Oh, dude, it's fucking ridiculous. It is unbelievable. It's like 90-something with the humidity of whatever the fuck, and it feels like 150. It's brutal, you know. It gets you down. After a couple of days of this, it's like, fuck me.
Don't you have air conditioning, though?
Yeah, but you know, not in every room in the house. I mean, in my man cave, my Mindset Studio hovel back here, there's no AC. So if I'm back here working on the computer, working on podcasts, I got fans going. I'm covered in sweat. It's like, oh, nightmare.
Buy yourself an AC machine. They're only a couple $100.
Yeah, that's true. I could, but still.
Are these
I like to suffer for my art, Joe.
That's what all you need is a window to put the pipe out of, a socket outlet to plug it into.
You put pipe out window.
Yeah, and then that's it.
And that's
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
It's going to be freezing cold in there.
Bish, bang, bong, you're on your way. Lovely. Lick a paint over here, lick a paint over there. You're all done. Marvellous.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Lovely jubbly squire. They still talk like that over there?
Not so much, really. Some people do. I did actually meet some builders who are proper Essex, sort of Cockney/Essex boys. And when I said to them, because bear in mind that most builders are from Eastern Europe in London.
Oh, yeah. That influx of, I need work. Please give me money. I need to work for you.
Yeah, like Polish, Ukrainian, just all over Eastern Europe, Lithuanians and whatever. Whereas I said to this bloke, so there's no foreigners on your firm then? No, mate, don't believe in them. Don't believe in foreigners.
What do you mean? You mean that like they don't exist?
Yeah, they're a figment of your Christmas. Like whenever anyone says, "Oh, what are you doing for Christmas?" I don't believe in Christmas. I literally don't believe it exists. Yeah. No, I don't know. No, he said, "Oh, it's dangerous, isn't it? Dangerous. Don't speak English, mate. Language barrier. Don't that." Some people do exist like that, but it's not that common. Really.
I will fix. Just give me a hammer, a bag of nails. You'll be good. You're done.
Yeah, pretty much. So, some of the guys that I met were Hungarian and couldn't even speak any English at all.
How does that work, though? If you can't speak any English, I mean, if you can get by, you know, you bumble a few words here and there, but you can basically get the gist of the conversation, you can make it work. But if somebody speaks no English whatsoever, how the fuck do you get shit done?
With great difficulty sometimes. But it depends. If generally speaking, with builders, you'll have the boss speaks pretty good English, and then he will just tell them.
He'd be the translator.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's all a bit dangerous, really.
So if it was like subtitles, he'd be like, and then on the bottom it would say, "Stupid Englishman is telling me to do this. Ignore him. Do this."
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice. Well, hey, dude, you did Mintcast again. Tell us all about that. I mean, for those of you listening who weren't aware, there's this podcast out there called Mintcast, which is heavily Linux-focused. And Joe has been the guest host on there for the past 2 weeks. Now, I listened to the first show, and I thought it was really good. Really, really good. I listened to half of the second show, not because I didn't want to listen to the whole thing. It's just time constraints and everything. But to tell us about the experience of hosting on Mintcast.
Well, it's quite different. Their show notes are very organised, and they're just generally very organised dudes. Whereas ours is a bit more sort of ramshackle, chucked together
From
at the
the
last
hip.
minute. Yeah, we're a bit more.
We're living on the edge.
Yeah, and yeah, it was a bit strange to be talking only about Linux, because obviously, like, I really push the Linux stuff on this show, but that theirs is a Linux podcast,
Right?
So that's all they talk about. So it was kind of nice in a way to not have to explain Linux stuff, and just there's a level of assumed knowledge of Linux there,
Yeah.
which was quite good, and it was a very different experience, really.
Yeah, well, I listened to the first one, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was a few things you guys were talking about, though, and it's a little bit like inside baseball, I guess. And I'm like, what the fuck are these guys babbling on about? Some kind of boot thing or from our floppy and this and floppy. What is this? 1993? You're talking floppies? What the fuck?
Well, that was what. Yeah, we were talking about floppies because someone brought me a floppy this week, a friend of mine, to try and get some data off it, and so that was quite funny. And I actually had a machine. Well, I've actually got two machines with floppy drives, so that was quite
Holy
funny.
Shit. Yeah, you're talking all like old tech and stuff, and all this. It was good though. It was a fun show. I enjoyed listening to it, and you stepped up to the plate magnificently and did a superb job jumping in there and hosting with I forget their names, but those guys seem pretty cool too.
Yeah, Rob and Scott was on the first one, and then the second one it was just Rob. Two American guys, and it's very American centric. They record at a time that's kind of 4:00 in the morning for me normally, so they move their recording slot, and I was kind of stepping in really from now on. So I don't know when I'll be back on there. If I'll be back on there, maybe. I think it went all right. The first one was better than the second one. The second one I was drinking, and so whenever I'm drinking, I feel like I'm more chatty and more outgoing. But then there's loads of stuff that I forget.
So wait. You're a guest host on the esteemed Mintcast podcast, where they're all like, spit and polish, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, extensive show notes, buying a book, and you're on there fucking lit.
Yeah, pretty much. And and that's the other thing. Like they don't swear on that show. It's all strictly safe for work. So usually it's all like fuck bollocks cunt on this show. Whereas I had to really think about what I was saying and not swear.
Dude, and if you're like chugging back cider on there too, and you got to really concentrate on what you're talking about. Did you start slurring your words or anything?
No. Well, I don't know. You be the judge of it. Listen to it. Well, maybe towards the end.
I didn't listen to the whole. I'll have to go back now and listen. Because by the end of the show, you're like, yeah, it's fucking Linux.
It's fine. Well, because we were talking about what were we talking about? Bitmessage, TorChat, and Mailvelope. And yeah, we kind of got a bit sidetracked and stuff. So yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, you know what? I did get a sneaky suspicion because you did your RMS, the Linux.
Linux.
You did that during it, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, so I stuck that in there.
Yeah, that was good.
But no, but definitely go and check it out if you're into the Linux stuff that we talk about.
Absolutely.
Then obviously Linux Outlaws is a good podcast, and so is Mintcast.
Yeah, no, it's a great show. I enjoyed it. Those guys did a great job. It was very cool.
But don't listen to the Linux Action Show. It's shit. Nah, it's all right. But,
Are you not a fan of what's his name, the guy with the beard and the solid hair?
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I always forget his name.
I don't really like Linux Action Show very much, partially because they dissed my mates Dan and Fab. They kind of like tried to start a war with the Linux Outlaws.
Really? Why? Why would you do that?
For a bit of publicity, because it's always a good idea. If you get into a war with another show, then it's like you get all their listeners.
So it wasn't like a real war then. It was just like a war just to stir the pot a little bit. It's not like it was a real like I hate you.
No. Well, it was the It was. Oh, it's a long story that I can't be asked.
Yeah, let's not get into it. If it's a big, drawn out thing.
Well, no, it wasn't a thing that because like cleverly, Dan and Fab from the Linux Outlaws didn't allow it to escalate. They were just like, whatever, we're not interested in a fight. But it was still it kind of made me think, well, yeah, what does that say about them? But anyway, so moving on then.
All right.
You've been playing with Flax then.
FLAC, yeah, man. FLAC is the bomb.
If you like buying hard drives, it is, yeah.
Yeah, the files are a little large, but I get the revelation where, like, you know, I'm gonna rip all my I'm gonna re-rip all my CDs to FLAC, and then I thought, you know what, maybe I shouldn't do that, because if I do, number one, it's going to be enormously time consuming, and number two, it means buying more hard drives, and I have a ton of hard drives already. So what I've done is only certain albums that I want to file away forever, but I want a good digital copy, is I'll rip it to FLAC and I'll rip it to MP3. The MP3 version will be the one that I'll play and put on my iPod and iPhone and devices and stuff. The FLAC one will be filed away, reference quality. So if I need to make another MP3 or something from that album, change the bit rate, whatever, I can always go back to the FLAC.
Yeah, well, because it's free lossless audio codec, so it's as good as CD.
Yeah.
Although it's a smaller file size than WAV or an AIF,
exactly.
AIF, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's reference quality. I mean, it's exactly like you're ripping the entire contents of the CD and then compressing it slightly, but with no loss in quality. So the sound quality is superb. So it's really good if you want to archive your CDs and at a very high audio quality. If you rip an album to FLAC and 6 months or a year later you realize that you ripped the album at a low bit rate on MP3, you can go back to the original FLAC file and re-rip it at a higher bit rate. It's like
or if you decide you want it in OGG, or if there's a new better codec that comes along, then I suppose you've got it in that. Yeah, you've already got it on your hard drive, and you can rip it more easily, I suppose.
So that's my plan. So I've done it with a bunch of CDs, and I'll as I go through CDs, I'll do it. I'm not going to be like spending an entire day or 2 days or a week or whatever just feeding CDs to my computer. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it as and when the situation arises.
And what have you been using to rip them then?
So I came across this great open source application called XLD. And I don't know, let me go to the website. I don't know whether it's available for other platforms other than the Mac.
No, it doesn't look like it. It seems to be very Mac-centric. So I'll do it to OGG as well. Okay.
Yeah, you can use this application to rip or to encode any audio format into any other audio format. And it works really well. I mean, really, really well. It's a great application. But yeah, it looks like it's purely for OS X. But no doubt there's a million other applications for Linux and Windows that does exactly the same thing just as well. Yeah. But it's really good because it's a graphical front end, but you can also fire up the terminal and type in commands, and it'll work through the terminal or in the GUI version. But yeah, it's you can do WAV, AIFF, PCM, WAV 64, MPEG-4, Apple lossless, FLAC, lame MP3, Opus, OGG Vorbis, WavePack, blah blah blah. You can even set up so you can rip to multiple formats. So you could automatically put in a CD, click rip, and it'll automatically rip FLAC, MP3, and OGG rather. All at once, so you don't have to keep going back and re-encoding. It does it all at once for you.
That's pretty cool.
And you can set it to once it outputs the file to put it into iTunes or whatever automatically, so you're done very easily. So if you are a Mac user and you are ripping an awful lot of CDs or converting file formats, this is a great application, XLD. I wouldn't use the the built-in MP3 encoder in iTunes. The ACC encoder built into iTunes is fine. So if you wanted to rip directly to ACC, that's fine. You could totally do that in iTunes. But if you go into MP3, Lame is probably the best encoder for MP3.
Why is it that you can't rip to FLAC, and why is it that iOS doesn't support FLAC and OGG? I don't get it.
Well, because Apple has its own lossless format called Apple Lossless.
Oh yeah.
So you can rip directly to that, and that's an archival quality too. You could use that for ripping your CDs too if you wanted to. But FLAC is free and open source, so I opted for that. But I could have used Apple Lossless just as easily.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you move to Linux ever or even Windows, then at least all your FLACs will still work.
Right. So what was it? Apple Lossless? It'll play in iTunes. So I could rip a CD using Apple Lossless, play it in iTunes, play it on my phone, play it on my iPod, play it on all my devices. Whereas the FLAC, if I rip it to FLAC, it won't natively play in iTunes. iTunes will not play back FLAC files, but there's a ton of other cool players that you can download and play FLAC directly. Or you can just use it as your archival copy and then convert it from FLAC to MP3 or ACC or whatever you wanted to use.
So you've been playing with the Nexus 4 then?
Yeah, it was a complete accident. We went to one of my son's functions at school, and I was talking to one of the other dads, and we were talking about music and talking about concerts. And he was telling me that he went to some concert with a virtual character, like his kids. And I was like, "What do you mean? What happened?" And it was some Japanese rock star. That's the character is virtual. It's a hologram that comes on stage. All the music is real. There's a live band. They have real people there playing real instruments, and the singer is behind the scenes, so the voice is real. So everything you hear is real. It's not recorded. But what you see is a holographic image of like a kind of anime character that comes out onto the stage and performs.
Yeah, like gorillas.
Yeah, like gorillas. But this is like a 3D hologram that's out on the stage.
Yeah, that's what gorillas do these days, apparently.
Yeah?
Yeah, when they do live shows. Or if they're still doing them, when they used to do them.
I was asking him about it, and I was like, oh, and he said, I said, what was it like? He said, it's fucking amazing. It's like it's whatever, it's really there, It looks incredible. And the kids are going crazy for this shit. And I said, wow, I'd love to see that. He said, oh, hang on. I have a video on my phone. Let me pull it out. So he pulled out and it was a Nexus 4. So he pulls up the video. He plays the video. I look at the video. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I said, can I take a look at your phone? He's like, sure. So I started, fooling around with the phone. I was like, hey, this is pretty nice. It was a nice form factor. It's a little bit bigger than the iPhone, but it's not, like a phablet. It's not a huge phone. And it was I think it was just about the right size. And I was very impressed. It was very nice indeed. It looked really good.
Well, now's the time to buy one because they've just dropped the price.
Well, they dropped the price because they're no doubt going to be coming out with a new version in any second. Probably by the time this show is out on the RSS feeds of the internet, there'll be maybe a new Nexus 4.
I think it'll be another month or so probably before there's a Nexus 5 or whatever.
Do you think they'll change the look of it though, or just upgrade the internals?
It's hard to say really. They could go for a completely new manufacturer because it's LG makes the Nexus 4.
Yeah.
So they could go for Asus or Motorola, or who knows what the next manufacturer is going to be. But yeah, at the moment in the UK, you can get the 8 gig version, which if you use a lot of cloud storage would be all right. But there's no SD card on it, so it's not that good. It's
too low. I mean, the memory on the Nexus devices. I mean, if you could throw in a little SIM card in there or something, okay, then I get it. That would make total sense. But because you can't, you're kind of screwed size-wise,
Yeah,
even
because the 16 gigabyte version which is what I've got. I paid $290 delivered, and now it's $210 delivered. So they've dropped it by 80 quid.
Yeah.
which is a fantastic price, I think, for that. Like, you'd be a bit mad to buy any other phone, really, unless having an SD card is an absolutely essential part of it. But with Google Drive and stuff, it's, I don't know, it's not really, it's not a huge issue for me. Mine isn't full. I haven't, I haven't specifically tried to not put stuff on there, but it is in the back of my mind. I try and delete stuff as soon as I've watched it, if I put video files on there or whatever.
So you got to worry about that. Like, I just pulled up the site right now on Google, the Nexus 4. So they have the 8 gig version in the US is $199, and the 16 gig version is $249.
Yeah, I think they've dropped them both by $80 as well.
Yeah. So you can buy the 16 gig. Now, see, if they kept this price point and they kept the exact same phone, but they changed the 8 to 16 and the 16 to 32, this would become suddenly very tempting.
Yeah, well, that's what they did with the Nexus 7. Around about this long after it had come out, instead of dropping the price, they kept this. Well, they did just what you said, changed the 8 to 16 and 16 to 32, I think.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
they gotta get. You should not be able to buy an 8 gig phone anymore. That's, unless it's not 2007 anymore. It's like, enough with this 8 gig nonsense.
Well, unless it's got an SD card slot, then
okay. Then because there's a way around it. You could get by, because you buy the cheap one and then you just go buy a 64 gig SD and you're done.
Yeah. The thing is, though, some apps are huge these days. Some games specifically can be gigabytes big. Yeah. So, yeah, but I don't play a lot of games, so I'm still very happy with mine. Yeah. Apart from the lack of keyboard, obviously, but that's a different story.
We got the Nexus 4. I played with that. I saw the Xperia Z. That was really nice. I thought that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought the Nexus 4 was an awesome phone, but I really liked the Sony Xperia. I thought that was a beautiful phone.
Yeah, that is a very nice phone, and that's got a 1080p screen rather than a 720.
Right. But we got a new iPhone coming out next week. I think next the 10th, September. No, is that next week or the week after? The September 10th is next week. Yeah, next Tuesday will be the big Apple announcement for a brand new iPhone and new iPads and a new version of OS X. So no doubt we will be talking about that after the fact during next week's show. When we'll talk about the pluses and minuses concerning Apple's new releases. I probably will be getting the new iPhone, but I'm not going to get it, the minute it comes out. I'll wait a little bit and then get it. But OS X, I will be getting that as soon as it's released. The OS X Mavericks, I will be hooking that shit up when that comes
will you
out.
chuck that on everything, on your laptop and your desktop? Yeah,
that'll go on everything immediately.
Because I swear there's not even that much difference between OS X versions.
Yeah, it's incremental upgrades. I mean, it's never night and day, right? When they release a new version of OS X, it's never it's not the difference between Windows Vista and Windows 8. Right, I mean, that's a radical departure. There's nothing like that, but it's all incremental. They'll add, they'll have the existing base of the OS, and they'll just add more features, more things you can do.
Features like when they switched the scrolling round, that really annoyed me.
Why?
Well, because you scroll down. Scroll down to scroll down.
Let me put this with you: if you're living in a Windows and Apple environment, then yeah, that's a pain in the ass. But if you're not...
But when you used to scroll in one way and then a new version came out and then it scrolls the other way.
Well, here's what you do. You either get used to it,
or you change it.
Or you go into the system preferences and you change it.
Yeah, well, which is what I did. I mean, I don't even own any Apple computers, but this was setting stuff up for people.
Yeah.
People who didn't really know what they're doing. But that's the first thing I do, is switch the scrolling back to proper.
So what I did was I just got used to it, and now I don't even think about it.
So now it makes more sense to you to have the phone style scrolling.
Yeah. Now it's just second nature. Now, yeah, of course, when it first happened, then I'm like, what the fuck? Oh my God. You know, it because your mind, you move the scroll wheel on your mouse, and your mind tells you that the screen should go one way when it's it starts going the other way, you know. So it's a little like, oh, raggy? Huh? But, you know, you either got to say, okay, I'm just going to leave it and get used to it, or I'm going to chicken out and become a stupid pussy and fucking switch it back to the way it was because I need my safety blanket.
Well, I fear change, as I've said many times on this show.
So I stuck it out. And after like 2 or 3 days, you don't even think about it.
Fair enough.
You know?
So you've switched back to Safari then, did I say you said on Twitter?
Yeah, I did for a little while. Then I went back to Chrome.
All right. Why was that then?
The main reason why I went to Safari, I wanted to go back to Safari, is I have this application on Chrome. The main reason that I use Chrome for my main browser is because I have this plugin where I can download YouTube videos. Right, so you go to any YouTube video, and on the bottom there's a plugin, a little button that says download, and you hit the download, a menu will appear, and you choose the resolution, where you want 1080, 720, whatever, and it just downloads it as an MP4 flawlessly, and it works perfectly. So I use that to download, you know, stuff from YouTube, and it works great. Well, about 2 weeks ago, that plugin stopped working. And I searched through the Google Play Store for an update, or you know, I didn't know whether YouTube changed something, or whether to break the plugin, or whether the plugin went fucking all messed up. And I could not find a way to fix this plugin. Now I have an application called Jaxka. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's let's see, it's Jaksta, Jaxta, I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
And this is an application for the Mac which allows you to download any media from any website, any streaming media, whether it be audio or video, and that works great. But you gotta launch it or have it running in the background in order to download the file. So if I'm on YouTube and I want to download something, and Jaxta's not running, well, it's not going to download it. Whereas then I got to launch Jaxta, then it senses the video and it downloads the video. So I thought, well, I'll just use Safari and use that. So I started using that, and then I noticed, I would go to a site and it would say, oh, you need to install Flash. Flash is not installed in your system. And I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm installing that piece of garbage Adobe shit.
Oh, so you don't have Flash then?
Fuck no.
No, you do in Chrome.
Chrome comes with its own little built-in sandboxed version of Flash.
Yeah.
So if on the odd occasion I do run into a site that needs Flash, Chrome will play it without a problem. But Safari will not play Flash content unless I install, the Flash player from Adobe, and I do not want to do that because it's a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
So I kept running into that. I'm like, come on. So then I thought, well, I want to see this video. I forget even what it was. So I went back to Chrome to see if I could see it. And I noticed that my YouTube downloader was working again. So I was like, yay! Back to Chrome.
Fair enough.
So that was my journey, I guess.
I just use Video Downloader or Download Helper or something. Because I use Firefox still. I'm still fighting the fight for Firefox. I never went over to Chrome.
You never switched to Chrome?
No way, man. I do have Chromium, the open source version, installed on most of my machines.
Right.
Just for if I want to have another browser for things. But no way, man. Firefox for life. No, although Firefox has got a bit shit lately, to be honest.
Firefox is the only truly open source browser, right? I mean, everything.
Well, no, Chromium is as well. Chromium is open source.
Can I get Chromium for the Mac? Let me see.
Yeah, I think you should be able to. At least you'll be able to compile your own version because the source is out there.
Let's see, Chromium, the Chromium project.
Yeah, I don't think.
Chromium. Oh yeah, there you go.
But it's basically like Chrome, but with a few features missing.
Yeah, Chromium, browse search. Oh, no, wait a second. Those downloads.
Oh.
No, I think it just says build Chromium on Windows OS 10. Let's see. Chromium. Yeah, I would have to. Yeah, I'd have to download the source and compile it.
Yeah. Whereas it's obviously comes pre-compiled in most Linux distros, just in the repos. You just.
I mean, it's doable. I could get it if I wanted to, but you have to jump through a few hoops to get it. But it is doable.
But it works with most extensions and stuff, and at least you know it's open source. But if you run in a proprietary operating system, then there's not much point, really.
All right, let's stick with Chrome. Chrome works
because it doesn't have Flash as well. Obviously, you have to install Flash separately.
Because that's like the main reason. Is that Flash and the Google Downloader are the two main reasons why I use Chrome.
Yeah, because to get Flash on Linux, you can install Flash, but they've stopped supporting it. They're only doing security updates, no feature updates.
I'm just waiting for it to die, man. I mean, it's on its last legs. I just wanted to go away. Just go.
Well, yeah, I mean, now that you can't even get Flash for Android anymore for the latest versions of Android. So, it's pretty much dead. But yeah, on Linux, the only way to get Flash, to get the most modern version of Flash, is to have Chrome, which really sucks. So, if you're not a Chrome user.
Yeah. So that was my journey back to Safari. If only briefly, I went back to Chrome once my stuff started working again. So there you go. Maybe it was just for a couple of days that things went down, but everything seems to be working normally now. Let's see. What else we got going on here? You know what I discovered the other day? Ubuntu 10.10.
Why would you use 10.10, an unsupported version of Ubuntu?
So here's what I was doing, right? I'm going through all my stuff, and I got a big stack of burned CDs from years and years and years ago. And I'm looking at, because I label all the CDs, and I'm pulling them up thinking, okay, I'll keep that, I'll trash that, keep this, throw that away, going through. And I came across a disc, and it said, Ubuntu 10.10. I'm like, oh. I don't know, when did I download this? It must have been years ago.
Well, it must have been the last half of, it must have been between the last half of 2010 or early 2011.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So then, well, let's give it a spin. So I put in the disk, and I fired up VMware, and I installed the image of 10.10 to check it out. And, it installed without a problem, zero issues. The installation is almost exactly like installing 13.04 or the latest version. The installer was identical.
But it wasn't Unity, or what? No, I think it was Unity back then.
It wasn't. It was GNOME.
GNOME 2, yeah.
Yeah, so that came up, and it was quite nice. Everything was in there. It worked fine. It was pretty snappy. It was fast.
That was the last proper release of Ubuntu, I think. I think that 11.04, the release after that, was the first one with Unity. So that was quite a historical one.
Yeah, it was all GNOME. So I thought, well, let's run updates, see what I can up. So I went to run updates, and it was like no updates for this this OS. Upgrade to 11 something.
Well, I would say. I want possibly 11.10.
11 something. It kept prompting me to upgrade to 11. Upgrade to 11 something. We no longer support this. You can't.
Actually, no, I think you'd have to upgrade to 11.04 and then 11.10 and then 12.04 to get to the latest LTS.
Yeah. So it wouldn't let me. I still have the image installed, but once I started getting error messages, not really error messages, but messages saying you need to upgrade. There's no more installations, And then I just closed it out and left it. I didn't go back to it. So I'll probably end up deleting it because what's the point? You can't update it or do anything with it. But it was a fun little 20-minute exercise to install Ubuntu 10.10 and check it out. Because I don't.
Yeah, well, that was as I say, that was a historical release because that was the last proper version of it. Yeah. So you experienced what it was like before they ruined it.
Now you can still go back to that GNOME interface. Even in 13.04, you can just sudo apt-get the what's it called? The GNOME
Well,
interface.
there's Mate, or Mate, M-A-T-E, which is a fork of GNOME 2, which there's a version of Linux Mint that comes with it, and you can install it on top of other distros. So you can get, that's pretty much where GNOME 2 was. But you see, the thing is, like, at the time of 11.10, GNOME 3 was coming out, GNOME Shell, which is much more like Unity, and they were drifting away from that traditional desktop paradigm, as it were. So that's, like, around that time, that's when most distros got shit, because they either moved to GNOME 3 or Ubuntu moved to Unity. Unless you stick with XFCE like me, and nothing ever changes. Yes. It stays like Windows XP.
So even with an update, nothing changes? It's still the same functionality?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the great things about XFCE, that it basically hasn't really changed since I started using it, like in 08. I mean, yeah, if you looked at Ubuntu 8.04, and then you looked at Ubuntu, what is it now, 13.04, 5 years separately, yeah, looks a lot more polished now, there's more features now, but ultimately it looks pretty much the same. And that, I think that is a good thing. I don't think that you shouldn't have change for its own sake, personally. I know you're not really of that philosophy, though, are you?
Well, so what they're basically doing is they're just smoothing the edges, making it look a little more modern, but the basic functionality, it hasn't changed at all. It's exactly the same. If you click here, this is going to happen. If you click there, it's always going to happen. The same thing, you know?
I mean, so there's slight changes, and if you were to take two, like, very different ones, like from 08 and now in 2013, there would be quite a few changes, but it's been very incremental and very gentle, and there's been no big crunching gear changes like when Unity came out.
So basically, it's like from Windows 95 to Windows XP, even though it looked different and it behaved, you know, the start button always works like the start button. Yeah,
exactly. I'd say it's less than that difference, but right. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right, let's see. Final thing here I want to bring up is Apple TV. Now, I know that you've been fooling with the Raspberry Pi for your media center, but as I'm an Apple guy, I've been using Apple TVs since Apple TV 1 when that first came out. And Apple TV 1 was the first one that was very, very hackable. But the current version of Apple TV, they're slowly but surely adding more and more content options to the device. Just last week, I fired up Apple TV and noticed that they'd put the National Geographic channel on there, a couple of Disney channels, a bunch of stuff that just and they never announce this. It's just you'll fire it up one day and then look what's here. You know?
So there's no ongoing cost for that then. You just need an internet connection and an Apple TV,
and it just appears. Huh. Sky News is on there now. The British Sky News, so you can watch Sky News live.
Oh right, that's pretty cool.
Which is very cool, but a little weird too, because you know you have the 8-hour time difference. So.
Yeah.
You know,
so you're watching it in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Right, because it's live. You know, if you would have put it on right now, and I would have put it on Apple TV, we'd both be watching the exact same thing. You know, but and they have so you can go live, and then have all news clips. You can jump around through the menu and choose different clips. But yeah, they're continually adding more and more, and it's very interesting because it's moving away, I think, from the cable subscription model. Like right now, they have HBO Go on there, which is an amazing application where you have access pretty much to everything that HBO produces. All the TV shows, all the movies, everything instantly available on your TV. But the only way you can access HBO Go is if you have a paid subscription with a cable or satellite provider. So basically, when you fire up HBO Go, it says, okay, choose your provider. So I have DirecTV, the satellite, so I choose DirecTV. Then it says enter in your DirecTV username and password. I put that in, and then suddenly HBO Go, the application, springs to life, and I have access to all its content on demand. So I don't really need to watch the standard HBO channels on my satellite dish. I just watch them all through Apple TV anytime I want. And it really does look like that they might actually go to a model where HBO Go will kind of bypass the cable satellite providers and say, okay, we'll just charge you $5 a month and you'll have access to all our shit. And I think from a consumer's perspective, that would be awesome. But from a
do you think maybe they might join up with someone like Netflix and say, so the regular Netflix is like $8 a month or whatever, but for an extra $5 you can have HBO as well as
Netflix and HBO are direct competitors. So
you don't think that'll happen then?
I don't know, because HBO creates its own content. Like they do Game of Thrones and all that shit. That's an HBO production. That TV show is made and financed by HBO. So now Netflix is starting to do that too. They're starting to create their own TV content.
Yeah, House of Cards was the big one.
Right. So you can see them both doing that, and because they're creating their own content, and because they're getting their own applications on these set-top boxes like Apple TV and Roku and whatever, they really are kind of cutting out the middleman. So unless something changes or some legal shenanigans leap into place to stop them doing this, this is kind of the beginning of the end for cable companies. Right? Because why are you going to pay $150 a month to get 500 channels of satellite TV when in reality you only watch like 3 channels, right?
Where you
can pay HBO and Netflix $10 a month, and you have everything you want whenever you want it.
Well, I don't even own a television, so I wouldn't know about that sort of thing.
But it's an interesting idea. It's going to be interesting to see which way this goes. Because, since they're adding more and more stuff to Apple TV, I find myself watching a lot more Apple TV than DirecTV.
And is there a Netflix app on there then?
Yeah. So I got Netflix on there also.
So why would you even bother then?
Well, there's that new phenomena which has sprung out over the last 2 or 3 years called cord cutting. I don't know, probably the same thing is happening in the UK. Maybe they call it something different, but they call it over here cord cutting. You cut the cable. So you call your cable provider and you cancel your service completely. And you do all your TV consumption over the internet through an Apple TV box or a Roku box or whatever.
Or like me, you do it with just a Linux desktop machine with a big screen. And I just use iPlayer, ITV Player.
Right. Now, the only, if you're not into sports, then cutting the cord makes perfect sense. But if you're into sports, if you're into watching people running around chasing balls and stuff, then the only way you're going to be able to watch that nonsense is if you have cable or satellite, because then you get all the games and stuff.
Hadn't even thought about that. So there's no way to do that without. I suppose all the well, you've just got. I love how you call it EPL, fucking English Premier League.
Oh right,
the soccer. There's no way to watch that. Then I hadn't thought about that. But if you're one of these,
if you're into
fans,
like men in shorts kicking the ball around and running around, then if you're into that, then your only option is to hang on to the cable or the satellite. But if you could give a rat's ass about those fools chasing balls, then you could save some money and cut the cord.
But you're all right in this country if you only like darts. That's the only sport I like, darts. And snooker as well, that's all right. Because they're on the BBC and you can just watch them on iPlayer.
For free, iPlayer, yeah. Now, if they released an iPlayer app for Apple TV, I would be like a pig in shit, dude.
Do they not have they not released one
No.
for use in the UK?
No, I do watch iPlayer in the US, and I do watch it on TV, and I watch it on TV in HD quality, and it works perfectly. But there's a lot of hoops to jump through to get that shit to work.
Right.
Like if the BBC released an iPlayer app for Apple TV, and they said, oh, it's going to be $10 a month, but it's going to be exactly like the regular iPlayer, I'd be handing them my credit card immediately.
Yeah. So there is. I just had a quick Google. So do you do it through your iPad then with an iPlayer app?
No. I do it through their website. So what I do is I fire up my iPad or my Apple TV. I mean, my either my iPad or my iPhone, and I go to the iPlayer.com website. And because I'm using some DNS jiggery-pokery to make them think I'm in the UK, I fire it up on the iPad and I choose a program I want to watch. I click play, and it starts to play on the iPad, and then I pause it. Then I go to AirPlay, and I choose Apple TV, and I click play, and then it stops playing on the iPad and starts playing on the television.
Yeah. Okay, because I think there's an app that you can get. Might be worth doing that.
Yeah, no, I tried the app, but the app is clunky.
Oh, right.
I like the website is a lot more laid out and easier to find stuff on the website than using the app.
Fair enough.
And that's how I do it, and it works really well. But if the BBC would release a genuine app for Apple TV, like a monthly subscription for US subscribers, I'd subscribe in a heartbeat.
What if they did it for the Chromecast? Or like if there was a way of doing it like that didn't involve an Apple TV, would you get rid of the Apple TV and get something else?
No. No, I wouldn't do that.
Or would you have something as well? Because presumably you got more than one HDMI port.
Yeah, I might buy a Chromecast to work with the Apple TV, but I wouldn't get rid of the Apple TV because it's fucking awesome.
Speaking of the Apple TV, if you go and buy a new Apple TV now, how big is it, and what's involved with it?
It's very small. I'm looking at my desk.
Is it about the size of a Chromecast?
No, it looks like a hockey puck. It's just like a maybe a little thinner than it's like a little deck of cards kind of thing, or a pack of cigarettes.
And how's it? It's not powered by USB then?
No.
Aha.
No, it just plugs into the wall. It's got like
so it's not as good as the Chromecast in that sense, where you can just power it off the TVs.
No,
because most TVs have a USB port, don't they?
No, it doesn't power off the TV. It plugs into the wall, and
right.
It's got like just a regular power output. Just plug it into the wall.
And it's got built-in Wi-Fi and stuff, so you don't need any network connection, any wired network connection.
Right. So you can either use Wi-Fi. It's built-in Wi-Fi. You just connect it to your local network. It has an Ethernet port on the back also, if you wanted to plug an Ethernet cable directly into it.
Yeah.
And then it's got HDMI out.
And they're only £100.
Yeah, $99. Yeah. A buddy of mine, when he came over to the U.S. Last year, I think, and he was asking me about it, and I said, well, just buy one and take one home. Save some money. So he bought one over here for $99, which worked out to about £60. So he saved some money. And he just took it home and then put a UK plug on the cable, and he was good to go.
Yeah, well, it's just a standard figure of 8. I think you can just buy a whole new cable for it for about £1 off eBay.
Yeah, or you just cut the plug off and just put the UK plug on the end of it. And, and away you go. Use the same cable, and it works just fine. Yeah, he plugged it in, and that was that. Because it's the same unit. It's not like they're making a different box for a different country. It's the exact same box. And
there's no issue with the power difference, obviously.
No, because
aren't you all to 110 rather than...
Right, but the converter in the box will work with 220 and 110, so it doesn't matter. It just works.
Cool.
Yeah.
Typical Apple, just works.
It just works. All right, shall we take a break and maybe come back with some news?
Yeah, go on then.
All right, we'll be back.
Mindset Daily.
Mindset Daily, hosted by Joe Dunn, a twice weekly and sometimes daily wrap-up on the current news of the strange. Every episode will highlight and comment on news stories that have either not made it into the mainstream or just grabbed our attention. Mindset Daily, your bite-sized alternate news fix. You can listen to Mindset Daily at mindsetcentral.com.
Mindset Daily. You're listening to the Mindset Network.
You can now hear all of the Mindset Central podcasts while on the go with the Stitcher Smart Radio app. On-demand news, talk, and more on your mobile phone. The latest episodes at Mindset Central are always available for you. No syncing needed and no memory or storage wasted. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android phones, and beyond. Downloading is easy. Go to Stitcher.com or check out your app store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to MindsetCentral.com.
Hi, everyone. This is Gareth from MindsetCentral.com. Just coming on really quickly to talk to you about subscribing or donating to Mindset Central. Right now, we average about 17 brand new podcasts a month on Mindset Central, and that's for free. So you get that content for free. It always has been free, and it will continue to be free. But just take a moment to imagine the time and the effort it takes to put all that together, plus also creating, building, sustaining the website and the server costs. We're constantly finding ourselves reaching the point that sometimes is the breaking point, and we're up against that old foe of time and money. And we're hoping that with your help, we can break through this wall. Not only do we want to continue with Mindset Central, but we want to build upon it and create something very special on the internet. So please think about helping us and becoming a subscriber. By becoming a subscriber to Mindset Central, you'll have access to the subscriber section, which provides exclusive, all new podcasts and a lot more. The subscriber section has and will continue to grow into an area that you will want to be a part of. And with monthly access priced at that of a large coffee at Starbucks. So for one coffee, you get access to the subscriber section, packed with content that is continually added to on a weekly basis. So please help us. Help us by becoming a subscriber. Thank you. And we're back. All right, Joe, are you ready for some news?
Yeah, Colin.
Oh, the big news, I guess, to hit the internet news cycles in the past 2 weeks is that Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer is going to retire within 12 months. This kind of came out of nowhere towards the end of last week. This made the headlines, and I didn't see this coming. Did you?
I don't really keep an eye on Microsoft, so not really at all. No, I didn't even think. No, I wasn't expecting it. No.
I mean, if you'd asked me, I mean, this guy should have been gone fucking years ago. The fact he's still there, I could never get my head around. Obviously, he's made some very poor decisions as far as the continuation of Windows. He just reeks of fucking boredom and stupidity. He comes off as a knucklehead fucking mental case. You know, when you see this guy talking, it's like a retard. Have you heard this
And
guy
it's-
in speeches and stuff?
Yeah, well, I've seen him and jumping around, going developers, and I love this company, like a fucking coked up wreck. But I don't know, it's his arrogance, I think, more than anything. Because Microsoft have been so successful, he just automatically seems to assume that they're going to stay successful forever and doesn't really realize that it's going to take some innovation and stuff to keep Microsoft being one of the biggest companies in the world.
I remember this was just as Windows 8 was coming out. So this must have been like, when Windows 8? Like a year or two ago, something like that, Windows 8 came out?
Not that long ago, I don't think. Maybe 6 months ago.
No, it was longer than that. And this just seems longer than that. And he was on a breakfast show over here. And they had like a little display set up where they had a bunch of laptops and desktops and tablets. But the tablet wasn't out yet. It was called the Slate, all running Windows 8. And, you know, the retard puppet head newsreader or host or whatever the fuck was over there yapping away to Ballmer, and he was being all hyper and hyperventilating. And the guy picks up a laptop and he's like, wow, this is so smooth and everything runs so fast. And Ballmer was like, that's right. You know, we've discovered that our customers, they want things to be running fast on their computers. So that's what we've given them. And I remember sitting there thinking, you only just fucking discovered this? I mean, what are you, a fucking mental case? I could have told you that 10 fucking years ago.
It was 13 months ago, August the 1st last year.
Yeah, it's like, but this is what our customers want. They want things to be fast and smooth. I'm like, no shit, fucking Sherlock.
Well, the whole business model or the whole laptop, desktop business model is based around Windows slowing down to the point where people buy a new machine every 2-3 years.
Yeah, I mean, Windows is still the dominant platform, right? You know, it's like what, like 70 or 80% of every computer on the planet is running one form of Windows.
Well, it depends what you deem to be a computer, you see. Like if you consider a computer to be a laptop or a desktop with a screen and a mouse or a touchpad, then yeah, you're right. But the bottom line is that computer doesn't equal that anymore. A phone or a tablet is a computer.
Yeah, that's true.
And hardly any of those run Windows software. So I'm not sure of the stats with regards numbers of smartphones and tablets versus desktop machines, but I know that it's growing. Desktop sales are really flagging, and just over the last couple of years have just tanked, whereas smartphones, where obviously Android is the dominant player there.
Right.
So arguably, most... I don't know if it's yet, but at some point
it's
soon,
coming. It's coming where it.
Yeah. And Linux is actually going to be, without anyone even knowing about it, Linux is going to be in everyone's hands and being the most used, part of the most used operating system.
It's as if Microsoft has they've been sitting on their laurels for a very long time, you know. Throughout the 90s and early 2000s, you know, they were the dominant tech company, right? They were like the big kid on the block. Everyone who was buying a computer, they were buying a Microsoft machine in some way, shape, or form, whether they wanted to or not. I mean, you know, obviously, if you're a Linux user, you'd buy the machine and go home and immediately format the drive and put your own OS of choice on there. But you still bought the machine with their piece of garbage on there. So there's been really no innovation, no forward thinking, no movement forward. It's just been, you know, them languishing on their past successes. And, you know, every company on the planet uses Windows, right? You know, you walk into any financial institution, any business that 10 seconds of talking to anyone who works there and you're bored out of your mind will be running some form of Windows.
Well, the stock exchanges are all moving over to Linux, so that it's not necessarily the case anymore. It certainly has been the case, but yeah, I mean, I suppose most boring accountants and, as you say, people who just bore you to tears, Most of them, not all of them,
running
but most of them are running Windows. Yeah.
Right. So they have this core business which is starting to shift. And I think that the people that are running Microsoft, they can see this. They can see that unless they get their shit together pronto, 5 or 10 years from now, Microsoft will be a shell a shell of a former company compared to what they used to be like.
Well, that's why they're trying to diversify, aren't they? I mean, they've got the Xbox, which has been hugely successful, and I don't see any reason why this new Xbox is going to be any less successful.
Well, you never know, dude. I mean, it's their only cool product, and every other product they fuck up. This one, the Xbox has always been a very cool product. It's been very popular, very successful. Now they're coming out with the Xbox One, so now it remains to be seen whether or not they're going to fuck up this one too.
I don't think they will. I think that Xbox has got a very good brand. It's like the brand is very strong, isn't it? Since the first Xbox, which was quite successful, and then the 360, which was massively successful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Kinect came along.
Sure,
and that.
yeah.
And I don't think they're going to fuck it up with this next one. I think that is one division of Microsoft. Because bear in mind that Microsoft is not just one company. You can see it as one company, but really it's loads of divisions.
Yeah.
When a company gets that big, it's basically loads of different companies that are just under the umbrella of one company.
Yeah.
And for some reason, whoever is in charge of the Xbox and the team that is running the Xbox division actually know what they're on about.
Well, here's what's going to happen, though, right? So this maniac Ballmer, he's going to be ushered out the door sometime within the next year, probably sooner rather than later. I mean, this guy is a billionaire, so he's not going to be hurting for cash. He's good to go. He's essentially going to retire, right?
Yeah.
Now, depending on who they bring in, that's going to make or break them. Even if the guy they bring in is just a figurehead, it's who they bring in. Like if they were to bring in, if Bill Gates was suddenly to say, "I'm going to come back and run the company," their stock will go through the roof immediately.
Yeah, which it did when he announced this. The stock went through the roof.
Right.
So it might have been a scam for him because he's got loads of stock, hasn't he?
Right, but if Gates said, "Yeah, I'm going to come back and run the company for the next 5 years," just the whole mindset, their profile, their in people's minds would change drastically. It was like when Steve Jobs went back to Apple. It changed everything. Now, I don't think that'll happen, but if it does, I think it would be very, very good for the company. Very good.
What do you reckon? Shall I apply? And I'll go and sort them out. I'll tell them, right, that's it. Fuck this Windows NT kernel bollocks.
Let's do a complete
We're going to cut the cord.
Yeah,
and
do a complete rewrite.
Linux, and we're going to make it all open source.
Well, I don't know about that.
We're going to be winners.
But they do need to kind of get rid of that old NT kernel. You know, when you're running an operating system in the 21st century, and when you format your drive, you're formatting it as NTFS. You know something's wrong. You know, it's like okay, format the drive, NTF. You're like, come on, dude, what is this? 1994? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, yeah, I have to have NTFS partitions for Windows to see. But yeah, exactly. It's you thinking, what the fuck? Like in my laptop, I've got my SSD, which is obviously has an NTFS partition for Windows, but then all the other partitions are just Linux ext4 or whatever.
So let's do speculation time or like hypothetical time.
Yeah, go on.
So let's say they hired Joe Ressington to be the new CEO of Microsoft and to redesign Microsoft Windows. Now, the proviso is obviously you can't make it open source. You can't make it freeware. They got to sell the operating system. They got to make a profit, or at least try to. What would you do?
I don't know. I would base it on more of a Unix type model, I think. And I think that you'd have to do you'd have to redesign it from the ground up, right, using Unix Linux style. But if you wanted it to be proprietary, you couldn't use a Linux kernel because that has to be GPL'd. So you'd have to have some sort of proprietary Linux. You'd have to license Unix. You'd have to license a Unix kernel and base it around that, or use BSD like Apple have done. But then you'd have to use something like Wine, Windows compatibility layer to make legacy software work. And I think that is what they should do, really. You could allow through compatibility layers.
So what I would do is I do something very similar to what you're doing. So I would immediately scrap every form of Windows, right? The Windows 8, XP, all that shit is done, finished. I'd start from scratch. I'd do my own version of Unix. It would be Unix based, but I wouldn't be fucking with Linux. I wouldn't be fucking with BSD or some IBM Linux nonsense or Unix bullshit. I would do my own from scratch, right? My own Unix kernel. I then build a kick-ass GUI to sit on top of that. Then I'd utilize maybe like a wine kind of like sort of compatibility layer, which would allow you to run legacy applications, but it wouldn't be that great because I wouldn't want it to be that great because I want people to run the new applications. And what I'd also do is I'd put in a time limit. I'd say, look, we got this legacy layer which will allow you to run your old applications. But this legacy shit is going to happen for the next year, maybe year and a half. That's when the next version of Windows comes out. And when that next version comes out, this legacy shit is done. So you got 12 to 18 months to get your shit together and get on board with the new stuff, or you're out in the cold.
Well, that's more or less what they have done, in a sense, with Windows XP. When we were talking about this on Minthurst, the problem with Windows XP is it's in, I think, April next year, 2014. Yeah, April 2014 it is. XP is going to be officially dead. No more security updates, and it's going to be a huge issue. We talked about this, I think, with the malware that is, when they do security patches for Vista 7 and 8, people will reverse engineer those patches and work out holes in XP and start exploiting those holes in XP that will not have been patched because they've made it officially go out of support. And that is going to be a huge problem, not necessarily for home desktop users, but for enterprise users. Like, for example, one company that I deal with quite a lot is Screwfix, which you probably haven't heard of. It's like a wholesaler of building materials,
okay.
Everything from all areas of construction.
Right.
Their system is based on Windows XP. Now, they have hundreds of stores around the UK, and their whole infrastructure is based on Windows XP. And there's no way that they can just change it quickly overnight because all of their infrastructure is based on Internet Explorer 6 6, I think.
And so the reason that they're in this predicament is because they're either too lazy, too cheap, or too stupid to upgrade.
I think that it's not necessarily either of those.
It's got to be.
I think
it's got to be
cheap
one.
is
got to be one. It's either one or all of those things, dude. There's no way.
I think the problem is to migrate a system as big as theirs to Windows 7 would mean downtime that would cost them millions of pounds, and would hurt their brand as well because they would have
because they're lazy, because they're not forward thinking. You know, they should have been having these discussions in 2005.
Yeah.
Right? But they
should have seen it coming, yeah.
But they didn't because they're either too lazy, too stupid, or too cheap.
Well, the problem is that Microsoft or other people who develop using Microsoft stuff came in and sold them this system that it wasn't forward thinking of them. If they bought a Linux-based system, it would have been much, much easier for them to progress forward. Like, for example, next door to most Screwfix stores, there's a store called Toolstation, which is more or less the same thing. And their computers all run on some sort of Linux. I'm not sure what it is. It's like a GNOME 2 interface. So I don't know, it could be some sort of Red Hat or something.
So what are they going to do? I mean, if next year XP is game
they're
over.
Fucked, basically, they're proper fucked because they can't migrate it. I don't think. You see, they can't do it overnight, and they are a 24/7, 7-day-a-week operation because people are always ordering from their website. And people, their stores are open 7 days a week, so they just don't have time. They'd have to close down for a few days while they transfer everything over.
They'd have to bite the bullet and just do it.
Well, they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to do it probably in August because that's when they're the least busy. And so they're just going to have to pick over a weekend in August probably. They're going to have to shut down their whole operation and lose a few million quid. And just that will be it. And they're going to have to give people plenty of warning that, look, we're due to a system upgrade. Because otherwise, they're going to be major vulnerabilities. And people will be entering their credit card details and stuff into this system that is...
So I wonder what they'll upgrade to, though.
7.
7?
Yeah. Undoubtedly, yeah.
Why?
Because that's what they'll get sold. They won't upgrade to a Linux system because...
No, why not 8?
Oh, no enterprise is going to use 8. No way. 7 is basically the LTS. Like XP was the unofficial LTS, long-term support. And then Vista came out, and that was like the experimental whatever. And then 7 came out, and that's the LTS. And 8 is like the experimental. 8.1 is just a service pack. And then whatever the next one is will probably be their next LTS. So no enterprise customers ever went to Vista. It was XP, then 7. And so if you are looking to upgrade right now, you are looking to upgrade to 7. No way would anyone be stupid enough to do it to 8.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, using Windows doesn't make sense to me in the enterprise. When,
because the way I'm looking at it is like, okay, so you upgrade to 7, right? Now, is that going to be better than XP? Of course. But you're still, 5 years from now, you're going to be in the exact same boat.
Yeah. Whereas if you upgraded to Red Hat or even Ubuntu or some other Linux-based system or even an independent company who uses Linux.
No, it would have to be like Red Hat because you need the support.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you're not going to do like some weird ass distro. You're going to have to go with a Red Hat, which has enterprise level support, and they can set you up and get things going. And if you have issues, you got a phone number you can call and say, "Hey, what the fuck?" and they can help you out.
Yeah, well, with Red Hat, if you pay them enough, they've got proper 24-hour on-site support.
Yeah, so that's what you need.
That's so many minutes.
And no doubt, if you were to go with like a company like Red Hat Enterprise and pay a couple of £1 million to get this shit hooked up, you'd still be saving a ton more money than if you went with Microsoft.
Definitely. And the thing with Red Hat is you're not locked in because it's all open standards. Yeah, I mean, Red Hat is a paid-for solution, but it is all open source. So if you wanted to move away to something like CentOS, which is like the open source version of Red Hat, or even to Ubuntu or Debian or whatever, then you could do it. It would be so much easier to move away from one Linux to another Linux because it's all open source standard, and all the software that you're using, like Toolstation uses Firefox, for example, for its main for the cashiers to interface with the system.
All right.
And so you could change the terminals to be any Linux as long as it runs Firefox, and then all it needs is Firefox and a network connection.
And you're good.
And yeah, so whereas all these other ones, the Windows ones that are based on, I think it's like ActiveX and stuff, which is like in Internet Explorer 6.
Yeah.
Is it 6 or 7? It's an early version of IE anyway. And that's what's locked in these companies. And Screwfix cannot be alone in this situation.
Oh, no, there's tons of companies. Oh, yeah, absolutely, of course.
All over the world who are going to be fucked. So back to the original point of what would I do if I took over Microsoft, the first thing I would do is say, right, we are going to support XP, but it's going to cost you. And you're going to have to pay this extra license, and we will give you security updates to XP so you can keep using your shunky old systems for indefinitely, and it's going to cost you X number of pounds per year.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would cut the cord. It'd be done. See, when you can't have people hanging on to the past. You got to move
some
forward.
people are so locked in that they have no choice.
They do have choices. There's just too chicken shit to move forward. I mean, this company you're talking about, yeah, they're in a bad place right now. But if they'd had this conversation fucking 6 years ago, it'd be done now. They'd be good to go. They'd be making money hand over fist again.
Yeah,
but because they're all
thinking about it, what they need to do is do it over Christmas and New Year.
Just get it fucking done. Enough with his hanging on to the past. Be done with it. Move forward.
But like all of their stock inventory and stuff is probably in Microsoft databases, and oh man, if they just moved it all over to open standards, it would just be so much better. But they're just not going to do it. I agree.
Yeah. All right, let's stick in the Microsoft realm of stuff then. The next story we have is that Microsoft buys Nokia's phone business for $7.1 billion. What's going on here, Joe?
Too little, too late, if you ask me.
So I was reading that this was a kind of a pressure point put on from Nokia onto Microsoft saying, look, you need to buy us or we're going to dump this Windows shit off our phones.
Well, that's what they should have done. They should start going for Android and maybe Tizen or maybe Firefox or even Ubuntu. They should diversify. But I think that Microsoft has probably pressured them into, when they signed a deal to push all these, I can't remember the name of the phones now, all the Windows phones.
Yeah.
They probably said, right, if you're going to do that, you can't do anyone else's. You can't do Android as well as Windows.
Yeah, it's got to be like an exclusive deal. Your Windows or forget it. It's but then
they've flopped, haven't they? Nobody. Do you know? No. Have you ever seen a Windows phone in the wild? I've seen like one or two.
Yeah, me too. I've seen a few, very, very rare. I mean, everyone that I know and everyone that I see is either running an iPhone or an Android variant or something.
Yeah, I see
running,
probably 100 times as many BlackBerries as I do Windows phones.
I don't know. BlackBerries, I used to. I don't see many BlackBerries nowadays. It's.
Well, I mean, that's the point. Yeah, like you don't see as many now, but I still see a shitload more than I do Windows phones.
But yeah, very rare, very, very rare Windows phones. Nobody buys Windows phones. If you're going into a phone shop or phone store to buy a phone, you're going in there either to buy an iPhone or a budget Android phone.
Or a high-end Android phone that's got a bigger screen than an iPhone.
Right. I mean, yeah, those people do exist. They're a minority, though, but they exist, absolutely.
Look at the fucking statistics, man. Don't kid yourself. You might like iPhones, and they might.
No, I'm not, dude. Don't get me wrong. I totally understand. Android is selling like hotcakes. It's hand over fist. Their market share is off the fucking charts. But that's only because every fucking phone out there, every cheap piece of garbage phone is running Android.
Well, I think that helps, but
what do you mean helps?
Even the high-end
that's it.
phones. Well, there are high-end phones like the Galaxy range, for example, the S4,
of course,
and the Note 2.
Absolutely,
are similar prices to iPhones.
Yes, and a small minority of people are into those.
I don't know, man. I think they're doing pretty well.
They are, absolutely.
But either way, you're right. iOS devices and Android devices are just massively outselling Windows phones. And the Windows tablet fiasco, they just could not sell any of them, could they? You
know how you know that Microsoft is tanking on the phone and phone and tablet thing?
Oh.
If you go to, I'll send you the link right now. If you go to this page and tell me what you see, and go to that page. Just click on it, and what's the first thing you see?
This is windows.microsoft.com, and it's iPad versus Windows.
Right.
See how Windows tablets stack up against the iPad.
Right. Now, the minute any company, regardless of what product they have or whatever, the second any company starts advertising that their product is better than another product, is game over. They're done. Finished.
Yeah.
And then forget phones and tablets. I mean, anything. If I make a chocolate bar and you make a chocolate bar, and I suddenly put on an advertisement or a commercial that says, my chocolate bar tastes better than Joe's chocolate bar, that immediately tells anyone with half a fucking brain that what I'm selling is shit.
Well, I'm looking at these stats, and actually, it looks quite good. The Surface. it's got like USB port, micro SD.
Okay. Let me break down these stats to you and tell you why this is fucking nonsense, right? So everything they got here, they got hardware, right? They got thinness, battery life, right? Weight, display size, micro USB, printing, cloud storage. You're like, wow, this is fucking great. And then you get down to the bottom, it says operating system.
Yeah, exactly.
You're done. As soon as you know that this thing's running Windows, it's like building a PC, right? You could build a PC the fastest, the greatest components. You got the best video card, the fastest, most amount of RAM, the fastest SSD, awesome case, and you put Windows on it. It's like buying a Ferrari and then someone taking a shit in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Right?
I suppose so.
You got a Ferrari, dude. You got the fastest, coolest looking car on the planet. And you open the driver's seat and you look in there and there's a steaming fucking turd sitting in the driver's seat.
Mm.
That's why the iPad is better than this piece of garbage Windows RT shit.
Seeing two apps at once. Oh, no, the iPad can't do that.
Wave your hand magically over the screen and it'll change. Oh, it's gimmicky fucking horseshit crap.
Mm. Well, I've never used a Windows RT, which is their ARM version of Windows.
Consider yourself lucky.
Have you ever played with it?
No, are you kidding me?
No, I thought you might have in the shop or whatever.
No, I've played with I've swiped it. You know, in the Microsoft Store, I've swiped the screen. It's just like the Windows 8 on your computer. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
There's no difference. It looks and feels the same way. It's exactly the same.
But it can't be a coincidence that Steve Ballmer is retiring.
It's not.
And they're buying Nokia. Well, Nokia's phone division.
They're getting rid of... He's not retiring. It's not like he woke up one morning and thought, oh, I think I'll retire now. I've done what I... No. You know that he was pulled into a meeting with the fucking board and they said, dude, you're out of here. Pack your shit.
He's going to be walking out with one of those wooden-looking cardboard boxes.
Yeah,
with a stapler.
That's what it is, right? It's like, you know what? We're done with your bullshit. You can't fix this company. You're out of here. Later. Don't let the door slam you on the ass.
This buying Nokia is just too little, too late, man. What are they going to do? Just produce more shitty Windows phones that no one cares about?
Yeah. Nobody gives a shit. It's garbage. It's like they're saying, oh, it's the best, it's this. It's not. Nobody cares, dude. Nobody's interested. Nobody gives a rat's ass. They could make the greatest fucking tablets on the planet. No one's gonna buy them. No one gives a fuck about Windows. People use Windows because they have to, not because they want to.
Yeah, you're not going to buy an entertainment device running Windows, are you? Is the bottom line.
Yeah.
You're going to buy either you're going to fall down on your side and buy Apple products, or on my side and buy Android devices.
Right. Exactly.
Not going to. Who would think to buy a Windows?
Nobody.
There must be fanboys out there because they must have sold one or two. But
can you imagine the look on a child's face at Christmas time? And we got you this tablet. Oh, thanks, Mommy. Thanks, Daddy. And they tear open the package and it's the Windows logo. Can you imagine the heartbreaking, soul-crushing look on that child's face?
What is it? Would it be worse than opening an Android tablet?
Yo, fuck yeah. Absolutely. But it'd be pretty bad opening an Android tablet too. Let's be honest.
Well, so I'm led to believe, but
when a kid asks for a tablet for Christmas, what he's asking for is a fucking iPad. Anything other than that, and it's going to be disappointment.
Well, in this country, people don't call them tablets. It's like Hoover. You can buy a vacuum cleaner made by whoever, Samsung or God knows
still
who.
a Hoover.
It's still a Hoover.
It's like a
And you can
Xerox,
buy-
right? It's like a Xerox, so you like a photocopier, right? Hey, make a Xerox of this, and it doesn't matter what brand of photocopier you have; it's still called a Xerox.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's how it is here. It's just called an iPad, regardless of whether it is a proper iPad or.
Really?
Yeah. Not as much, but I think that it's heading that way.
Are you kidding me? Seriously?
Yeah, that people would.
So it's like, I got one of them iPads the other day. Marvelous. Yeah, look at this. It's really good. Have a look at this. And he pulls it out, and it's a fucking Android Nexus.
Yeah,
it's fucking iPad.
It's one of those cheaper.
It's an iPad, isn't it? Yeah, iPad.
It's like people consider Android tablets to be knockoff iPads, sort of thing.
Well, that's
people
true.
who've got no clue about these things. Oh, it's an iPad. Oh, it's not a proper one, though, is it? Oh, it's one of those Android knockoff, those Google iPads. I don't know, I might be wrong, but that's my impression of things. That people who aren't tech savvy, that's kind of what they.
Yeah, it's not like that over here, dude. I mean, over here they call it's a tablet or it's an iPad.
Yeah, well, most people who know what they're talking about. But I think that we're moving towards like thick people or people who aren't tech savvy or aren't interested. That it's just it's an iPad.
See, that would never happen over here. It's like over here, no one would ever call a non-iPad an iPad. They only call iPads iPads. Everything else would be either just a generic tablet. Or a Google Nexus, or something like that. Usually just a tablet. But they'd never say, "Hey, look, I got this new iPad," and you'd look at it, and it wouldn't be an iPad. I don't think.
But then again, you don't call Hoovers either. You call them vacuums, don't you?
Right? Yeah. So it's so weird. I have a joke about vacuums. You bring up vacuums. I always do this joke with people, and whenever someone gets it, I'm always pleased. But most people don't.
Okay, here we go then.
So I'll tell you what happened. So recently, we had a yard sale here, right? So we were going through all our old stuff and selling everything, and we had a vacuum cleaner that was out, but we weren't selling it. We were just using it. And my brother-in-law was over, and he was like, "Hey, your vacuum. Are you selling that? I need a new vacuum cleaner. I'll buy that vacuum," because it's one of the Dyson ones, right? He said, "I'll buy that off you." And I said, "No, man." I said, "You don't want that vacuum cleaner." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because that vacuum cleaner sucks."
Wow.
Right. And he was like, "What do you mean? It's not very good?" And I was like, "No, it sucks." And I was saying it like that, like, "No, it sucks," like a punchline. And he was like, "Well, what's wrong with it? I don't. What do you mean? Does it not?" I'm like, "No, dude, listen to me. It's a vacuum cleaner. It sucks." And then he was like, "Oh, okay, ha ha ha."
It's a bit simple.
But you know what I mean? It just wasn't connecting. But seriously, if you do that, I've done that to a bunch of people, and most people do not get it.
I suppose it depends on context. If they're not expecting a joke, then
they're not expecting. Then when I say it sucks, they immediately think, "Oh, what's wrong with it?" I'm like, "No, it sucks. It's a vacuum cleaner. It's supposed to suck."
So anyway, it's what do you reckon is going to be the outcome of Microsoft buying Nokia? Does it mean that they're both doomed? Is it the kiss of death for Nokia?
For Nokia, yeah, it's game over. They're done. They're done.
Because they can't even rely on their feature phone, the dumb phone market, because even the third world is catching up to smartphones, and they want the cheap, like that Firefox phone that came out.
If Nokia starts running, making great hardware and running Android, they have a future. If they just make great hardware and they run Windows Phone, they're done. It's game over. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I agree. I think.
Yep, just a matter of time before they go the route of BlackBerry.
Well, they're not quite dead yet, but yeah.
Yeah, it's dead, Jim. Okay, well, let's see. Last news story of the day. This is a good one. Password cracking software runs at 8 million guesses per second. So this is interesting. I guess a password cracking software recovery tool chews through 8 million guesses a second. So it can pretty much crack any password that you use for your website, your encryption software, your computer, email, whatever the case may be. If you throw this application at your password, it'll probably knock it out relatively quickly. So here's what concerns me about this is that this password cracking software it's out in the wild, it's publicly available, but things like this have been around for a very long time. And behind closed doors, in the hands of government agencies or three-letter agencies, what kind of software would they have that can just rip through passwords? You know?
It beggars belief. They probably have the hardware and software combined to break passwords in seconds, really long, complicated passwords.
Right. So in this little article here, there's one that says one security researcher cracked the password, and I'm not even going to read it because it's from one of the Cthulhu H.P. Lovecraft stories, and it's like all, I guess, the native tongue of the demigod Cthulhu, and it's like this big, huge, wacky, crazy-ass phrase, and it was cracked in minutes. You know, whereas a human trying to guess this is no fucking way. There's no way. You know, that would be like a super rock solid, awesome password that would be unbreakable by a person. But this application just fucking plows through it and pops out the correct password in like a minute.
Yeah, the best thing with passwords is to make them as long and complicated as possible. But if you're using dictionary words, then it makes it very easy for software like this to guess it, because it goes through all of the words that are in the dictionary, and even if you're putting zeros for O's and stuff, that's not really going to help because the software that
just rips
that's out
through
there can already do it.
But it's
and that's the public. This is the public face of it, as you say.
Right. Behind closed doors, who knows what the hell they got, and you know, even the most advanced, strongest encryption algorithms on the planet, they're basically ruled by the password. So even if you do encrypt your stuff with the greatest encryption I ever guessed, if your password is you know, can be ripped apart by this software, who cares about the encryption? Okay, to crack this encryption would take 12,000 years.
But if to crack the password only takes 5 minutes.
I can crack your password in 3 seconds, so who cares? It's very disturbing. Very, very disturbing. But we throw that...
I mean, it comes down to the same thing I always say. Don't say anything on the internet that you don't want people to know about. But, everything on the internet is effectively public, or at least the NSA, etc., know what you're talking about.
Right.
Like the only safe way is face to face in a crowded place, and if you frisk the person and know they're not wearing a wire and all the rest of it. If you really want to get up to criminal shit, the internet is not the fucking place for it.
That's true. That's true. That'd be a good T-shirt. If you really want to get up to criminal shit, the internet is not the place for it.
Yeah.
That's a good one. If you really want to get up to criminal shit, the internet is not the place for it. I don't like
Unless it's such low-level criminal shit that no one gives a shit about it.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good catchphrase.
Like low-level weed dealing or whatever. I'm sure that even if they pick that up, they're going to be like, whatever, not interested.
Yeah, next, you know, whatever.
Yeah, but if it's like terrorist shit or whatever.
They're all over that, yeah. All right, let's do some feedback. Now, we mentioned a week or two ago that feedback is feast or famine on this show for some reason, but we got some food this week, didn't we, Joe?
Yeah, not exactly a feast, but we got a couple, which was nice. If you want to get in touch with us, mindsetcentral@gmail.com. If you want to email us, or on the Facebook or Google Plus pages, or the page for the show on mindsetcentral.com.
Everything's on there, including BitMessage, all that stuff. If you want to contact us,
yeah, that's where both of these came from. Is on the show page. So yeah, the first one, Chad said, "I agree with Joe that there's no hope.
There is no hope.
We've gone past the point of no return. The UK, especially, is done for. It's not just London that's swamped with CCTV. I live in Birmingham, which is a big city. I walk out my door and can count 10 to 15 cameras covering all areas.
God.
Yeah, if you look in central London, man, it's just fucking everywhere.
So depressing.
It is very depressing. Even more depressing how no one says anything about it. Kids growing up today will see this as normal and never question it,
right,
as they've always been there, so they'll not see anything odd about it. Well, I grew up without it, and I don't really question it most of the time. So, yeah. We have no freedom of speech. The government bans everything. Just look at this picture from Liverpool Football Club with a list of words they're not allowed to say.
Yeah, and he puts the picture up there, right?
Yeah, which, to be fair, is like, really, it's kind of stuff that you shouldn't really be saying anyway. So I don't really agree with him on that, I'm afraid. It's like race/religion, and then pretty much all of the words that you wouldn't want to say in public because they're quite.
I know. I'm just looking at this thing though. It's like the guy
sexual orientation,
right? But
leather,
the guy who it's like the guy,
jockey.
The guy who they gave this assignment to, like, I want you to write down all the words. He must have been like laughing his ass off as he was typing this stuff out because some of these are funny.
Yeah, but it's like gender is quite funny. Like queen, man up, ladyboy, tranny, princess, play like a girl, she-man, and don't be a woman. You can imagine the footballers, don't be a fucking woman.
My favorite,
not allowed to
my favorite one though is the disability one. Spaz. No, the best one is Downey.
I'd never even heard Downey.
Me neither. I've never heard that before either, but that's funny. Midget, cripple. What are you, a retard? Retard. And handicapped.
Handicapped?
Yeah, that's not a put down. That's handicapped.
You know, you're not even allowed to say mixed race anymore.
Why not?
You have to say mixed heritage now because, like, there is no race. There are no races. There's
really?
only the human race, man. Yeah. Like in politically correct Britain, like you've got a.
You can't say that's gay. Look at this. So you can't say Leza.
That's from old school.
This is a great one. Knob jockey.
Yeah, knob jockey.
That's a great one.
It's funny, like saying something is gay.
Yeah.
Like, that you've got a Windows phone. Oh, that's well gay.
Yeah.
Like I know a gay man. I haven't seen him for a while, but I've heard him use the word gay in that context.
Sure, but he can though because he's gay.
I suppose it's like the word for black people that I.
You're not even going to say it, are you? You're so mind controlled.
Yeah, no way am I going to say that. Someone could edit it out of context, but I think it was Louis C.K. that says people who say N-word, they're basically saying N-word, but without actually saying it. They're making it in your head. You're thinking it. And
yeah. That's
he did a great bit about that anyway. But yeah, so I'm not sure about that last bit because I think that like that isn't the government. That's like Liverpool Football Club saying, look, don't say this, please. Because the club wishes to eradicate any form of discrimination, which, like, I know it doesn't really sit well with the whole kind of relatively right-wing conspiracy crowd, but political correctness is a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
You think so?
Yeah. This is not really the show to discuss it, but
no, I know.
I think political correctness on the whole is generally a good thing.
So you like having your thoughts censored and people telling you what you can and cannot think?
Well, put it this way, right?
Because I don't.
I don't think it should be necessarily mandatory, right? And I don't think that by saying offensive things you should go to prison and stuff. But I think that everyone being a bit nicer to each other and more sensitive to the differences and stuff between people. And being politically correct about it is probably a good thing.
What are you, half a fig?
Well, I believe that you should have the right to, say whatever you want. But I think it's probably not necessarily a good idea to exercise that right. So I've come down somewhere in the middle anyway. But, anyway, thank you for that email.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Not email, that comment.
Yeah, Chad, that was a great comment, and the image you sent us, dude, that's the bomb. That was. Yeah. I mean, that made me laugh a lot. But
it also says, "P.S. Gareth, get an Android phone, you wimp."
No way.
No, as I said before on the show, and as I said in the break just then, I don't think Gareth should get an Android phone because he's too used to.
I think I'd hate. I mean, I think it'd be cool, but I think I'd hate it. I really do. I mean, I look at Android phones and I love the way they look. And I think they look great, but I know in my heart of hearts that if I were to get one 2 weeks into it, I'd be like, "What? It'd be a nightmare."
Well, it's like I tried to email you a photo of a cassette tape, and a mini disc, and it took fucking 10 minutes because the Gmail app for Android is shit. And like any time you try and send any sort of attachment, this is like 3 megabytes.
That's crazy.
And it just shits itself and doesn't send it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So
that would never
there's things like that
iOS,
are just,
dude.
There's little annoyances that if you're used to iOS.
Yeah. All right, what else we got?
No. Right, so the next one from Jim, he said, heard about the podcast from Mintcast. Yay. And wherever Rob and Scott say, take a look at this, quite a few of us usually do. So just some quick feedback. I like how organised this is.
I know, it's very, very organised.
Number 1, swearing. I use it for emotional punctuation frequently, but Rob from Mintcast is a grandfather and the grandkids are around, so ... Yeah, I mean, it's...
he's an older guy then, huh?
He's what?
He's like an older guy.
Yeah, he's got grandkids and he's still working. He's not like a decrepit old whatever, but he's getting on a bit. And yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, like I said all along, if that's their show, their rules.
Sure,
so
yeah, absolutely.
That's why I didn't swear. If you come on our show, you have to swear.
Yeah,
loads. You have to drop at least one cunt bomb.
No, absolutely. It's just that I agree with the whole when in Rome thing. I completely agree with that. So I mean, when you're on someone else's show, if you have to behave a certain way, then that's the way you should behave. End of.
Yeah, it's like if you go around to someone's house, you have to behave in that way.
Exactly.
In your own house, or in this case, on our own show, we can say what we want.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Privacy, the next part of this, too. Privacy and the NSA. A while back, Scott McNeely of Sun said famously, privacy is dead, get over it. At the time was all just... hang on. At the time, we all... I think that's supposed to say...
At the time,
we all just thought he was a dick.
Right.
But... venturing off into tinfoil hat territory, if the feds come into your shop and you're gagged from saying anything about it, a slip of the tongue might be the only way to get the word out. And if his next unspoken sentence was, compare what the NSA has got on you, Google knows nothing.
Right.
Number 3, the Apple Windows open source ecosystems. Granted, we're all going to stay in the place we've invested the most time and money, but I think Google is trying to get the geeky kids on their side when they're young. Need a cheap laptop for internet access or an office suite? Here's a $250 Chromebook.
Yeah.
You can't screw it up unless you beat it with a rock, which is pretty much true. Oh, shit, hang on.
What more?
Want it to do more, install Linux. There's no UEFI blocking you here. Make sure to check out the Summer of Code or Khan Academy on YouTube. Who knows, you might learn something more than what you get in school. Oh, and you think you might like to try developing for Android? We've got the Nexus line unlocked and without bootloaders for sale in the Google Play Store. Even cheaper than they were before now.
Yeah.
I think as the state and local governments cut back on those lavish teachers' salaries...
He's being sarcastic.
Yeah. Companies are going to step in, like Gatorade sponsoring high school football here in Texas.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I'd rather kids latch on to Google than Gatorade or the Army. Fucking right on that.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, he's pretty spot on there, I think. Yeah, so if someone's going to step in and get the kids while they're young, I prefer it to be Google than Apple, say, or Microsoft, because at least they
I disagree.
Google, at least Google pretend to be about open standards and stuff.
No, gee, I mean, I know there's probably a ton of people that are going to disagree with me here, but I really think that Google is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think that they're a lot darker and more disturbing than both Microsoft and Apple combined. I know they have this really nice smiley face that and Google is free and we use open source software but I strongly believe that behind closed doors there's some evil, dark, shady bullshit going on in there.
Yeah, I think they're just charming their way into your house before they rape you.
I tell you, I mean, what do I know? I don't know nothing. I'm just some fucking mental case on the internet. But the feeling that I have is that there's a lot more than meets the eye with Google.
I think you might be right there. I really, really hope you're wrong, but I fear that you might be right.
Well, that about wraps it up, Joe. I think we've exhausted all possibilities for the MindTech Podcast, episode 24. Been a great show. I've had a lot of fun talking to you today. We've discussed some great topics, had some great conversations. I hope the listeners have enjoyed it also. Don't forget, check out some of the other shows on the Mindset Network. Keep coming back, subscribe to our RSS feed, and keep listening. Spread the word. And we will be back next week with more tech talk on the MindTech Podcast. But until then, farewell, good brothers.
See you later.